And we're back.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Blue Friday. We always say that as if you guys weren't just with us like 30
right? Yeah. We just saw you 15 minutes ago. And most of you, the names in the chat are very similar. A lot of them from all the day
People
streams, which has been great to see. This is our 5 p.m.
Yeah.
This one, and then one more.
Yeah, so
Friday, Blue Friday's coming up to wrapping up for the live event part of it. You have still until 6 p.m. to get your Coral Restoration Foundation raffle tickets and the grand prize giveaway. Get your entries into that because those are all being announced in the next stream for the winners. So real quick, just want to hit on that. You only have a little bit of time. Go do that.
Yep. Not very much time. Less than an hour to get those in. We did hit our goal of $10,000 for the Coral Restoration, which is so awesome. Yes. But if you haven't entered, go do it. It's well worth entering, even if you don't win, because that money, all of that money is going to Coral Restoration Foundation. So, and you get a chance to win a $5,000 gift card. We are giving away 6 $500 gift cards this episode, so you can go over and enter that now. There'll be a bonus word here in a little while. It'll give you 10 extra entries.
So on the schedule for the 5 p.m. block, there's an enter giveaway button. Go there, you can get your entry in. When you get the bonus word, you can go back there, enter the bonus word, get 10 extra entries. So it's got to be on that page on the 5 p.m. block, the only place you can get your entries for this stream. So you want to go there for it.
Yes, and just to reiterate, because we haven't talked about it much since the first stream, Blue Friday is the biggest sale of the entire year for Waterbox. We're giving 15% off aquariums, 20% off supplies, 15% off equipment. There's also some Ecotech on sale for 25% off, so on and so forth. So definitely take advantage of those sales. Don't wait to order till the end of the sale. Do it now because the order volume is extremely high. You wait, you might have to wait longer. So definitely get your orders in. That's in the U.S. and Canada. So
stuff's already shipping today. Yeah. Blue Friday orders are already shipping. There's tracking. It's moving. Stuff's already on its way
Some of you guys are going to have your tanks next week.
Yeah, I know. Look, Friday. So it's going to be early next week. People are already going to get in their Blue Friday orders, which is amazing. And it is true. It goes in the order that it's, your order's placed. So you wait until the end of the sale. It will be one of the last ones that goes, or inventory. Yours may not.
Yeah, it could be in stock now, and when you go to order it, it might be a back order.
Yeah.
So definitely don't wait on that.
All right, so ORA, we've worked with them a lot. Went down to see them in Fort Pierce for this one because it's a great topic. A lot of people may be getting their first saltwater aquarium or just starting another one or whatever it may be. And, we want to talk into the topic a lot of easy to keep versus hard to keep corals, and what requirements, what are good choices for them, and kind of what the differences are, because it is really important. You're starting an aquarium of what corals are the best one to start with. When am I ready to maybe jump into the harder to keep corals? And ORA has been aquaculturing corals, fish, inverts, all of this for over 25 years. They're one of the first ones that started this on a larger scale.
Yes.
And really has brought so much into the hobby and industry for aquaculture and protecting the reefs. So, they really know what they're doing, So I'm going straight to the source. We got a lot of great information from them. So they're going to give us a lot of good info today.
Yeah, watch us sit in the boiling sun in their greenhouse.
It was so hot.
We always record these things at the wrong time of the year, but nonetheless, they were fantastic interviews.
So we do for you guys. We have mild heat exhaustion in the middle of summer in a greenhouse in South Florida to get the information. Check it out.
We are back at ORA Corals in Fort Pierce, Florida to talk about easy to keep and harder to keep corals. Thank you for having us back, Jordan.
Thanks for being here, guys.
Really appreciated. Let's start a little bit about the history and the goals of ORA.
Okay, well, as many of your viewers are familiar with, we started in 1996. We've been here on the Harbor Branch campus Since then, cranking out as many aquacultured fish and corals as possible for the aquarium industry. Here we have 2024, what is that, 27, 28 years? It's been a remarkable journey for all of us.
How big is ORA? Like number of greenhouses and like amount of things you are.
So we're sitting
aquaculturing?
on about 7 acres right now. We've got multiple hatcheries, everything from a larval, live feeds, grow out, shipping, main office. At any given time, we've got about 50 employees working here, producing millions of fish over the last 27 years.
It just seems like the other day it was your 25th anniversary.
I know,
We're
here we
already
are.
on the 28th.
Yeah. It's,
So you're going to be celebrating the 30th.
it's quite remarkable, absolutely. And we couldn't have done without any of our store partners.
All right, Jordan. So let's talk about the more challenging side of reef keeping. What are some of the hardest corals to keep in a home aquarium?
I think people would argue that your stony corals, your SPS, are some of the more challenging corals to advance into. But they're certainly a nice, good segue into, from your easy to keep soft corals, your LPS, into like the most advanced stony or non-photosynthetic species. I think a lot of people would say that your Acropora is kind of the top of the list for your hard to grow corals.
What makes these like harder to keep?
I would say right off the bat, it's just an awareness, an attention to detail about the conditions that these animals live in the wild, which is usually a very narrow band of non-changing conditions. And with any aquarium, particularly a novice, you're going to be seeing fluctuations in temperature, light levels, pH, alkalinity, whereas these animals need very specific, very consistent parameters. And if you can dial that in your home aquarium, I think you're going to be very successful with a lot of these species.
It seems like, well, I know especially for me even, but a lot of hobbyists, if they stick around long enough in the hobby, they're eventually going to give SPS a shot. That's like the precipice. That's where
Oh, it's the goal of every aquarist,
a lot
I
of
would
people
think.
end up there eventually.
Right. And it's a shame that more people don't always aspire to that. I mean, you get those persistent rumors that, saltwater, they're so hard to take care of, it's so hard to maintain. And I think that robs people of the opportunity of at least trying some of these SPS species.
Is it also true that with, speaking on the aquaculture side of thing, that an aquacultured SPS is going to be a lot easier to keep in a home aquarium than like a wild or maricultured version? So you're providing actually an easier to keep, hard to keep coral.
Oh, I think you touched on a great aspect of that. A lot of wild collected pieces that come from ocean grown areas have a harder time transitioning into an aquarium, both lighting, nutrient levels. But when a facility like this, when you're actually growing corals in very similar to aquarium conditions, it makes that transition much easier. So you are going to get a much tougher piece, much more forgiving for the aquarist, and I think they're going to have a better time and be more successful.
Jordan, let's dive into a little bit more of the challenges that hobbyists face when keeping the harder corals, like SPS.
Right. So I think the equipment and some of the financial burdens of adding on those additional equipment that's needed to keep these species would be kind of first challenge number one, if you will. For me personally, I really think the best thing you can do is get the top three: your lighting, a calcium reactor, and a protein skimmer. You get those three things and you don't skimp on those pieces of equipment, I think you're going to have a much easier time. And it's really going to open a huge door for you for anything from your stony corals to your clams. You're going to see better growth out of your calcareous algae that cover your rocks. I mean, it's going to be great for you. The calcium reactor will really help you maintain a lot of the parameters that people struggle with. Your pH, your alkalinity, your calcium, magnesium. It really takes a lot of the guesswork out. I personally feel like a calcium reactor is much easier to maintain than, say, a dosing system, where you're having to test constantly to make sure that each of your parts are adequately making it into the aquarium.
Do you recommend calcium reactor? Because it's not as commonly used on a lot of aquariums, I guess, unless you are like heavy into SPS and a larger volume, or do you think it's beneficial for every aquarium?
I think you can't go wrong with stabilizing all of your parameters, even in a soft coral aquarium. But it really takes, like I said, a lot of the guesswork out when you use something so easy as a calcium reactor. But I acknowledge that our hobby is very gadget and toy based, and so people love having the controllers, you know, and then the micro dosing pumps for each of those little parameters, and that's fun. That's fun to tinker with. But I personally feel a calcium reactor is a set it and forget it tool that really helps maintain levels without any kind of guesswork or easy to make mistakes.
All right, so you love calcium reactors, but speaking on the volume of your water systems and stuff here, do you use calcium reactors here at ORA?
I think you'd be shocked to know that we don't use any of those kind of additional supplements. Being very close to the ocean, we're on a saltwater well, and a lot of the elements that we need are automatically found in the water that we're using. And so they're getting everything they need.
So they're basically getting replenished from you guys replenishing the water, doing water changes.
Precisely, yep.
So you're actually pumping in direct from ocean water, so you're not having to replicate?
I mean, it's from a well,
Okay.
right? So under, but it's also cleaned and processed before we're using it here. And yeah, again, it has everything that the corals need.
That makes it a lot easier for this kind of operation.
At this scale, yes. If we were having to do like baking soda and particle A and B's, it would be very costly.
Mixing water vats and all that
absolutely.
stuff.
500 milliliter A and B supplements.
Every day, yeah, out there tinkering with your syringes.
Different than a home run aquarium for sure. So talking about, you know, there's challenges with SPS, but when people are looking to get them, like, what is your growth type and like propagation? Like, how do they differ from other types of coral?
So I think this is where it gets really fun. And the fun part of the hobby is the aquascape. You know, it's very easy to just buy corals, put them in your tank and just kind of watch them grow. But I think it's important for aquarists to think about the future of these corals, right? So visually, I think you're going to want a lot of your more branching corals to be kind of in the background. So they're not going to be using up all your valuable real estate up front. You're going to get corals that are going to be encrusting on rocks. You're going to get some that form little balls. You're going to get some that table outwards. You've got so many different options, and it's important to think about those growth forms as you're placing the corals in your tank, because they're not always going to be tiny little frags. They're really going to be pieces that take over large swaths of space.
Yeah, these corals, if you've ever seen a very mature SPS aquarium, the different structures
You're right.
and just sheer size that they can get to is beautiful. You just don't see it quite as much.
And it's important to think, you know, so a plating coral, for example, right? As it grows outwards, you're not going to want to put that frag up on top, because then you won't be able to have enough light underneath everything as it grows out and shades everything, almost like a big tree.
Yeah.
So keep those kind of things in mind as you're putting those things lower in the rock work. Branching corals more up in the higher parts of the rock.
All right, Jordan. So what is your favorite harder to keep coral, and what do you appreciate about that coral and the challenges?
So the two species that I love, I think first and foremost is Aquaculture hyacinthus. It's a tabling coral, very common, comes in a variety of different colors. What a quintessential growth form, I feel like. You know, whenever you see pictures of like a coral reef, a healthy coral reef, you always see the plating layers of this species of coral growing. And for me, that's a beautiful element to add to an aquarium. Beyond that, there's another type of coral that we don't actually grow here, Aquaculture spathulata. It's a really kind of a thick branching, almost like a millipora. You always see it with this really kind of transitional color variations, you know, from pink to purple to white. I mean, it's always spectacular. Challenging to keep those colors. More often than not, grown, you know, taken from the wild. They just don't tend to do very well.
Is the red planet one of the first species you mentioned? Is that?
I would argue that a red planet and the green planet are varieties of a hyacinthus aquaculture.
Okay. Do you know off the top of your head how many different types of SPS you grow here? Ballpark.
I would say overall at any given time, I think we've got about 150 species of coral, you know, across all spectrums growing in this building, with, I would say, somewhere around 50 to 70 kind of in active production for sale.
That's a lot. A lot of
A
variety.
lot of species. And, you know, some of these species have been made of frags of frags of frags of frags of frags using microfragmentation and haven't been in the ocean since early 80s.
Yeah, because some of your hard coral types are still the same ones that you started with when ORA began, right?
Yeah, like the Stuberstag is a great example of a frag that we received from Germany decades and decades ago, and have just been continuing that in production ever since.
That's so fantastic. So how would you compare, if someone's kind of considering what they want to do, like the experience and rewards of growing hard corals versus soft corals? Like,
I mean, I would say the reward is the challenge, right? So you've set up your tank, you've had fish for a while, you've had mushrooms, you've had xenia. Now you want to take that next step. The very first coral you choose, let's say it's a Monopora digitata, and it starts to grow and starts to grow over your base. I mean, that little like warm glow of accomplishment gives you kind of the boost to try something a little bit different, another type of coral, maybe a stylophora next time. And as you start getting the more colorful corals, and I think one of the things that brings the most joy is when you get, like, say, a brown coral, and you've put it into your tank, and over the next couple months, it actually starts to flourish with a color that you didn't see initially. I think that is a fantastic reward, and I think that really encourages people to try other corals, just to kind of see what colors they can pull out of them, and what their tank will look like afterwards.
it's a good answer.
Jordan, what advice would you give to someone who's ready to move from easy to care corals to harder to care corals like SPS or Aquapora?
I think research would be a great first step. You know, get on the forums, go to your local fish store, talk to the owners, talk to the employees, see what makes their display tanks work. Knowing is much better than just jumping into it. I think people struggle when they jump into something they don't have the knowledge about. And it's such a fun hobby to learn about. So take that first step, learn about the species and what they need to grow. Again, you may need to upgrade your lighting. You may need to go from T5s to maybe a more higher power LED. That would be a great first step, just so that you know that you have the adequate lighting for these very intense light-loving species of coral.
Make those changes you need before you dive into trying these harder corals versus working backwards when things start
It's so
not
much
to go
easier
well.
to start from a good spot and grow the coral than have to like recover the coral that wasn't doing well in your system to begin with.
Okay.
So yeah, look for areas where you may need to upgrade your equipment. Maybe your lighting, maybe your skimmer isn't sufficient. You know, maybe you need to start checking your phosphates now in a way that you didn't have to when you were doing just soft corals.
All right, so talking about all these corals and what ORA is doing, where can everyone find ORA corals?
So we have a vast network of partners, both domestically in the US and internationally. Our stony corals are available on a number of partner websites for dropship, but also local fish stores everywhere. And if you can't find what you're looking for from our catalog at a local fish store, call us. We're happy to coordinate with you and get you in touch with a store that does, or even work with your favorite fish store and have them bring in our species for your home aquarium.
Okay, because they can't order direct from you, so it needs to be through a local fish store
Right.
or an online partner.
Right, yep,
Okay.
we work direct with a number of stores, but we really try to make that as direct as possible to the hobbyist so they can get exactly what they're looking for.
So if your favorite store doesn't have any ORA corals, get them to come get it.
Give us a quick phone call. We love answering and talking to you
Definitely
guys.
request it. Well worth it. Jordan, before we wrap it up, well, first off, thank you for sharing all this knowledge
Oh,
with
my
us today.
pleasure.
We greatly appreciate it, as always. Before we wrap it up, is there any last bit of knowledge that you would give to our viewers or hobbyists out there, you know, just general information that you would find valuable?
I mean, I think one of my favorite pieces of advice is keep your hands out of the tank. You know, an aquarium should be like a living picture in your home. And I know some people like to tinker with their stuff. I personally like to set my aquarium up so that I don't have to do a lot of that stuff every single day. I think it's much more rewarding when you can actually sit back and watch kind of the fruits of your efforts without having to constantly remove algae or take out aptasia or fiddle with a piece of equipment. You know, set it up right, set it up easy, and I think you're going to have a much more enjoyable time with your coral reef at home.
It's good advice.
Excellent advice. Now we have Donna here with us. She's going to talk to us all about easy to keep soft corals.
What are some of the easiest or like most like known soft corals here?
I think probably the most recognized soft coral in the hobby and even in the industry when you're first starting out is definitely that pom-pom xenia. Mushrooms are also another great one, and zoanthids. Those are probably your top three. And also corals that we produce here in our coral greenhouse.
Thank you. Excellent. What makes those corals specifically easier to keep than other species?
I think for the most part with a soft coral, they are far more resilient to any sort of water fluctuations. So if you're comparing that to a harder species, you know, an Aquapora, and even LPS, the tolerance that a soft coral has to swings in your water parameters is far greater than those specific corals.
Now, are those corals like in a natural reef setting? Are they in a different part of the, like a different area than you would find SPS corals typically? Is that have something to do with their resilience?
Yeah, I think for the most part, you're going to find those generally in sort of a deeper section of water. But with zoanthids, you may find those in shallow lagoon settings as well, similar to an acropora. So I think it depends on the species and where they're naturally found. But yeah.
A lot more tolerance.
Exactly. Yeah.
What would be the basic care requirements of some of these soft corals if someone wanted to kind of have an idea of where it gets started?
So as you can see, we're in our coral greenhouse here. We do have designated trough space where we keep all of our soft corals separate from our hard corals. It's not that they're receiving any different water parameters. So if you were running, let's say, an acropora tank, you may want to keep those soft corals separate from your acropora and not so close up on them. But the same basic care requirements, you're going to want to run that, 1.024 to 0.26 would be fantastic in terms of salinity. Your pH is going to be generally the same across the board. Full reef, acropora, or soft corals.
Lighting and like that kind of stuff, is it different for soft corals?
It is a bit different. They can tolerate higher light, but you're not going to want them to be so close to the lighting that they start to get bleached. As you can tell with some of our coral troughs here, generally for our soft corals, we have shade cloth over them because they just can't tolerate as intense of a PAR as an acropora.
Makes sense.
So my next question you spoke on a little bit, but in regards to placement and tank conditions, can I run through those just real quick? So you don't want to keep them with your SPS.
Yeah, you want to keep them a bit further away.
And then also less intense lighting is another one.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I would say low to mid range would be prime for your soft corals. You want to kind of keep and reserve that upper portion of your tank for your LPS and your SPS.
For soft corals, like what makes them different? Talking on like growth pattern and how you would like propagate or aquaculture those versus other types. Like there's something specific with soft corals as far as growth and fragging.
Sure. So with your soft corals, they have many different types of growth patterns, right? So with hard corals, you'll either have like an encrusting, let's say an encrusting or capping montipora, and then you'll have kind of those, I would say, finger-like growth patterns or plating growth patterns of an acropora. So with your soft corals, you'll have a mat. So your green star polyps grow on a mat. They'll also grow as a branching form and encrust. And then you have your zoanthids, which will also be kind of the mat. I think with your leather corals, similar to a xenia, they tend to grow in kind of a branching form, and then they propagate by kicking off a stem, and then they grow to whatever they attach to.
So those larger mats of say like zoanthids or stuff, how are those propagated?
So typically you can cut those.
Okay.
I know in a hobbyist tank, you have rock work. You want to take out a piece of rock and replace it and start fresh. I mean, a lot of people go in there and they just tear it off.
Okay.
It's not super recommended, but it's as easy as doing something like that.
So Donna, what is your favorite easy to keep coral and what makes it stand out to you?
So I think number one for what we produce here, and even in our Marshall Island facilities, zoanthids will always be my go-to soft coral because it offers a diversity of color, pattern. You can essentially make an entire tank, a zoanthid garden, and you'll have that dynamic element that kind of keeps that visual interest and has every guest coming to your house like, man, what is that? And I don't think, let's say a pom-pom xenia, it's nice to look at, but it only has one color. And so you don't really want to make an entire tank out of it. What about you?
My favorite, which I know a lot of our viewers know, is the green star polyp.
What about you, Jess?
I'm gonna go leathers.
Okay.
Just because they give a lot of height. In a soft coral tank, if you're not gonna do other types, you actually can get some height out of the leathers, whereas everything kind of grows flat. So
And it offers a lot of movement too.
Yeah.
So that's a good pick.
Yeah.
So like kind of talking on, you know, the care requirements of the soft corals, but if someone's really just looking to focus on soft corals, I know we kind of compared them to the other ones, but like what would be your like main, like, okay, this should be your general water conditions and flow and lighting, like general, if they're just focusing on soft corals, you know, they don't want to go super high tech into it.
Sure. So I think with anything starting out, you're going to want to have that maintenance routine consistent across the board. It's just going to create good reefing habits for in the future when you decide you want to kind of venture out a bit. For the most part, do your water changes, I'd say bi-weekly. It's not going to be as aggressive in terms of your maintenance schedule with a full reef tank. You're going to want to keep an eye out on growth as well. You don't want them kind of impeding each other and just taking over your entire system, which they tend to do at times. So keeping things trimmed back when needed. I would say medium to higher flow would be great for some soft corals, just because they tend to have a mucus that they're going to want to shed off on occasion to kind of continue that growth pattern. So you're going to want to make sure that it's not just sitting stagnant in your system. So that's where that flow really helps you out.
Well, thank you again, Jordan and Donna, for having us down here at your amazing facility. As always, we greatly appreciate it, and we hope we give the viewers some inspiration to set up a reef tank, using especially ORA corals.
Oh, hey, thank you guys. I really appreciate you guys
Always
coming all the
great.
way down here. Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure visiting with them.
Yes, I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was really fun to do, other than the heat.
If you want to see more in depth with them, we do have like a full facility tour that's on YouTube. Just type in ORA in the search. There's like one of our most popular videos,
Yeah.
like 30 minutes long. You get to see all aspects of it. Definitely worth checking out. So
Yes,
real quick
absolutely.
on that.
So thank you to ORA again. I do want to mention, you guys, there's just a little bit of time left in the Coral Restoration Foundation raffle. Excuse me. And we just want to give you guys, maybe you didn't tune in earlier to the first episode, a little bit of a brief overview about what Coral Restoration Foundation is all about.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll help you decide whether or not you want to enter into that raffle. But either way, let's check that out.
The first time you jump into our coral nurseries, it takes your breath away. You see rows and rows of trees full of healthy, growing corals, and you can simultaneously see everything that Coral Restoration Foundation has already done and everything that Coral Restoration Foundation is going to do. You realize that every coral you're seeing is one day going to be part of a reef. It's going to be some animal's home. It's going to be what gets someone hooked on diving the first time they jump into the ocean. You really get a sense of the scale and importance of this enormous undertaking, and it makes you want to be a part of it.
Outplanting is where our ultimate goals are realized. You've got clusters of coral colonies you've been watching grow for months, all the way from finger-sized fragments to foot-long colonies. Now you get to release them onto a wild reef so they can start to grow and reproduce on their own. And they do. We've seen our corals grow and fuse together. We've seen them spawn. We've seen them become part of the living reef. We are laying the foundation for an entire ecosystem here.
The Coral Restoration Foundation has a chance to help author one of the greatest comeback stories in natural history. Caribbean coral populations have declined by almost 90% in the past half-century, and people are saying they won't ever recover. But we're already bringing them back. We know there's still a long way to go, but we also know we have a very real opportunity to do something incredible. That's why we're here.
A little better insight into what they do. Go to their website. You can see all the ways that you can also help, volunteer time, all kinds of educational programs and stuff that they do. Really excited. We reached our goal of 10. We'd love to raise as much more as we can.
Yep, got 29 minutes.
Yeah, 29 minutes for that. And also for the grand prize, which is also a $5,000 gift card, that also ends at 6. So you have that same 29 minutes roughly to go on to the Blue Friday page. Get your entries in there. You can get your standard entry, and then also social actions will get you more entries. So that is all wrapping up by 6 o'clock, because on the 6 o'clock stream, we're going to announce both of those winners. So
Yes.
$10,000 being given away on the next hour. We have $3,000 to still give away
Yes.
in this stream. So definitely last minute, get all that in if you haven't already. I know a lot of you have been with us all day, so hopefully you've already gotten pretty much all of your entries in for the grand prize.
There are so many entries.
Yeah.
So many ways to enter, so many ways to win.
Make it as easy as possible for you guys to get all those in. And, you know, hopefully we'll get a little bit more money in there for CRF, so we
Yeah.
can get as much to them as possible.
Again, we really appreciate you guys doing that. We know that these days it isn't always as easy to be donating money, but it means a lot to us. Like,
Yeah.
genuinely does, and it does to CRF also. They really appreciate what Waterbox does for their group. We try to do it every year, and again, like I said, we've now raised over $60,000 over the last 3 or 4 years. For
That's
them.
amazing. That's
Yeah,
so awesome.
Every little bit helps, right?
Yeah.
So
Perfect. We got it ready for our winners. So we have got our 6 gift cards to give away for this stream. First 3 winners. Got a drum roll.
oh yeah, Nicola Lucica, man, I'm probably gonna butcher that name. Ryan Crow and Josh Stevens. Congratulations, you
Yeah.
guys. So
First
awesome.
round right there.
If you're winning gift cards, tell us what you're gonna buy.
Yeah, I'd love to. And also join us next stream too if you want to. Let us know. Hopefully you're buying yourself something real nice with a gift card. And if you have already purchased and you get a gift card, we can credit it to that.
Yeah.
You can buy supplies, whatever you want to do with it. So get your orders in if you know what you're getting. We have 3 more gift cards to give away.
Let's go.
Are you ready?
Paul Mosey, Trent Sizemore, and Nate King. Congratulations, you guys. That's awesome.
Oh, I just got called out on the horse head. Has not
Oh
made it.
my goodness! Let me forget. It'll be in the
All
next
right.
one.
You gonna hug him on the next one?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Thank you for the reminder. That was totally brought up in like the first stream.
was.
Don't think we've seen it since. We've made it all day without bringing out horse head. So you
You
guys,
gotta have the horse head.
yeah.
I love that thing.
All right.
You're like, all right, move on.
We're back in like 27 minutes. We're gonna give away $10,000 in the 6 o'clock hour.
Yeah.
We're gonna do something fun.
Yes.
You gotta
very
stick
fun.
with us on that. Please come watch us be complete tards and
Yeah.
do something like that.
If it's okay with you guys, we're going to take a little bit longer break this time. So we'll see you guys.
Got 27 minutes.
Yeah.
Chill time.
Heck
All right.
yeah.
We'll see you in a little bit.
Blue
Friday is back.
November 1st to 10th. It's your best chance to save big on Waterbox Aquariums, supplies, equipment, and more.
Save up to 20% site-wide with our biggest discounts of the year. And don't forget, financing options are available with rates as low as 0% APR for 12 months.
For all the Blue Friday details, visit waterboxaquariums.com.
I've had this thing for like. You're a fucking bear. Fuck yeah, dude. We're not live anymore, right?